All right, thank you very much to all the guys and our social media viewers as well. So I know that this has been a much awaited interview ever because it's so exciting that today we have the wonderful and the phenomenal and astute businessman. And I think, with such a long background in corporate, now turned an entrepreneur, but he will get to tell us more about how it all started from the small and humble beginnings. So very, very exciting. Looking forward for this conversation. So hello guys, my name is Rapelang Muzumi from the Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Company. So at the Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Company, we concern ourselves by building a strong and working entrepreneurial ecosystem for entrepreneurs, because once we fix the ecosystem, then we can fix many other problems that entrepreneurs face. So if we have a broken ecosystem, so we cannot fix a lot of issues within the entrepreneurship. So, but today I'm not going to say much because we have one of the entrepreneurs who is a consultant himself, who has so much knowledge and understanding around how to really fix this entrepreneurial ecosystem. And today we'll be chatting more about what entrepreneurs need, and that will also include issues of the ecosystem to really understand what the ecosystem provides, what it offers, and how can we really make it work best to solve some of these needs for small businesses. So Akash, I'm very, 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 very honored and excited to have you. So we were just chatting in the background that yeah, a lot of synergy in some of the work that we do, and looking forward to working more together to build a working ecosystem for the small businesses. So I'm not going to take much of your time and do a lot of introduction, because I really want, before we start this interview, for you to tell us more about your journey, where it all started, who is Akash, and what can you say about how you have transitioned from the world of corporate to now building this global company called, because we understand that your company is a global company now, Endorphin Global. So yeah, just tell us more about your journey, where it all started, the humble beginnings, for you to become to have this long corporate journey up to now transitioning into entrepreneurship. Where did it all begin?
So thank you very much. First and foremost, Rapelang, I'm really honored to be here with you today and with all your listeners. I think just before I start, you touched on a very, very important aspect in terms of fixing the ecosystem itself. And that's a very important point. And I think one of the things that embodies that very, nicely is one of my mentors at one stage, put it very nicely. And he said that if you have a plant, a beautiful rose tree or a rose bush or a flowering plant, and it's not doing well, you don't try to fix the plant, you fix the soil and everything and the environment in which it grows. So if it needs sunlight, you need to take it out into the sun, or you need to water it and things like that. And that's very, very important, because that's what entrepreneurs are. They are delicate plants that start from seedling, and you need to have the right environment and ecosystem for them to thrive. So that's absolutely brilliant in terms of what you said. So in terms of my background and how it all started, I started my own little business when I was in school still, way back when. I don't want to give too much away in terms of my age, but let's just say it was even before cell phones. So I won't even talk about social media, we didn't have tweets and Facebook and, putting ads out on social media and all of that like we are doing now. But we had door-to-door selling. So when I was little and in school, I literally started my own little business. And from that time, it actually taught me a lot. And what I found was that when I was in my own business, and even though I did business economics and things like that in school, there was a very big disparity between what we actually learned and how you apply that as a small business. So, it started off there, and then I continued to study, and I got into, the medical background. I've got the medical field. And from there, I studied further, and then I got into the wonderful world of finance, banking, and insurance, to where I grew in corporate to quite senior levels in business in possibly about 23 countries in Africa and all over the globe. From there, I realized that there wasn't any work-life balance. The corporate world was also very, very, difficult to be in. And no matter how hard you worked, you were actually a number. So long before COVID and all of those things hit, we had the property bubble, we had the economic financial crisis, and a few other things. And it just kind of put me into, pushed me out of my comfort zone. And speaking to some previous clients of mine, giving them advice and talking to them and becoming friends, they actually turned around and they said, "Man, you should be charging money for this kind of advice that you're giving us." And that's when the seed was actually planted, and I got the courage to actually go out on my own, totally. So that's basically in a nutshell what happened. And today, it's taken a lot of time and effort, but I'm glad to say that yes, we are a global company, and we've got offices in South Africa, the US, and India. So yeah, we quite blessed, and we actually very happy that we've managed to succeed.
Yeah, no, definitely very, very interesting journey indeed, how you started from corporate and then transitioned into entrepreneurship. So, but when I look at your profile, it looked like you're really enjoying yourself in corporate. I don't know why you you transition into entrepreneurship, but it's exciting how you manage to build and scale this Endorphin Global. So I want you to tell us more about what is this Endorphin Global about, and what are the solutions and the services that you offer, and what does it offer in terms of the entrepreneurial ecosystem? What is its role in the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem?
Okay, so Endorphin Global itself is a global multinational management consulting company, and entrepreneurship empowerment company. What we do is we go around to companies and we assist to coach and mentor the business owners more often than not, in terms of becoming more efficient. We also then change the ecosystem within which they develop their businesses, because what you do find sometimes is that companies are started by people that happen to just get into a business because of the fact that an opportunity came past, because entrepreneurs are like that. You might be an accountant, but if you find that you get an opportunity, to work on a mining contract, you jump at it. You say, yes, I can do it, and you go in there, but you don't have all the prerequisite skills and knowledge for that particular thing. So there's lots of inefficiencies and things like that we actually find. And what we do is, for medium to large business and large corporates, my team and I get into businesses, and what we do is we specifically look for revenue leakage, because nobody can have a look at the entire business and say that money is not being wasted. But what we do is we take a holistic approach. We do a lot of AI, data analytics, predictive analytics. We work across multiple sectors, from mining to healthcare. That's basically what the management consulting side does. We've also got the nonprofit company that we've started some time ago called the Endorphin Foundation, which I'm very proud of. And I think we were talking about it before this, that we're going to work well together. And what we're doing there is that we are actually empowering. Our goal is to empower more the youth. We take anybody from any walk of life, and any age group. But what we actually do is we take the youth specifically from, and we focus on the impoverished communities. So we don't care, what the color of your skin is, but if you're motivated enough and you have access, we try to get the schools involved. And what we do is we try and teach you practical skills, because sometimes kids don't realize that they actually do have skills that you can turn into a business. And what we find is that if they're given the opportunity to get into business and start earning, a proper income. First of all, you're not dependent on the corporate world for a salary. You're not dependent totally on access to education, formal education, because you might not have the funding to do so. And thirdly, the thing is that, and most importantly, is that we try and steer them away from the trappings of crime. Criminal elements, they like to look for the youth that are looking and struggling and wanting that sense of community. And what we're doing is we're actually building that community in a positive manner.
All right, no, fantastic stuff. Sounds very interesting. So while on the Entrepreneur Global there, so how have you managed to scale this company, especially internationally? Because I know that in South Africa, we have this mindset of once in South Africa, always in South Africa. And there is no thinking around how do we scale even out of South Africa to reach the international market, because the market is huge. So we are talking about access to market, but our thinking of access to market is actually access to South African market, not access to market in general. And we are crying and complaining about access to market, but looking at the limited scope of the market here in the country. So how did you manage to scale international and even have the courage and the guts to go outside of South Africa to do business there? And what can you say about the ease of doing business as you scale outside South Africa? Because there could be barriers to entry. There could be a lot of things to look out for before you even initiate a move to go outside of South Africa. A lot of people have also got their fingers burned, big business, small business. They just came back to humble themselves and come back to the local market. So what are some of the risks of going outside South Africa, and what can you encourage small business to also look at opportunities outside the South African borders?
So I think the first thing that I need to say is that the manner in which I scaled my business and why I was able to do that was one very simple thing. Nobody told me that I couldn't do it. So, for me, it was there were opportunities that I looked for, and I went out and I got it. And the thing is that you normally hear that business is a dog-eat-dog world, and yes, it is true that if you don't have the right coaching, mentorship, leadership skills, if you're not an innovator or a risk taker, yes, you could be eaten. But when you do something, the biggest thing for an entrepreneur is to really, really believe that you can do it, because 90%, I would say, of your success comes from believing yourself. And I think the biggest problem that we find is, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but as soon as you want to do something for yourself, whether it's getting into business or starting something new, or just tell a few of your friends or your family that, hey, you know what, I want to become an insurance salesman, or I want to get into multi-level marketing, or sell something, and the first thing that they'll tell you is, no, you can't do it. That's you're not going to make a living that way. And I think that is ultimately the biggest barrier that we have, is the mindset that we have. And the thing that I need to tell, if there's one thing that potential entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs that are here listening to us today can take away from today is you've got to believe in yourself. And, more often than not, don't tell people that are too close to you as to what your plans are. Because more often than not, because they are not at that mindset where they believe they can do it, they're going to more often than not try and put you off from doing it yourself. So as soon as somebody tells you that you can't do it, they already planted the seed, and you're always going to be, careful about whether you can or can't, and you're going to second guess yourself. So in terms of, me scaling my business is, and especially into the international markets, yes, Africa and the international markets, you should be wary of, and there are very many barriers to entry. However, the biggest thing is that, first of all, conquer your local market. So once you understand your local market and you understand how your own business works and reacts to that market, then you're going to iron out all the teething problems. You're going to be able to understand what you need in your business and what is, just a nice to have in your business, and you're not going to require. Once you understand that, be confident in either your product or your service, and slowly start marketing yourself. Businesses need to have a better online presence. You know, like this webinar, for example, we put it out on social media, and that's how we got people to get interested in it. We have to have that media presence. You need to start speaking to people that have contacts in other countries. You need to start reaching out to companies in other countries. See where you can plug in. If you can plug in and support a service or a product locally to a local company, there is absolutely no reason why you can't do the same for an international company.
Sure. No, fantastic work. So I think you're just reminding me of my schooling days when I was at school, and then everyone was applying for the internship programs and the graduate programs. And I remember when I tried applying, I wasn't successful at all, but I knew that all along I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And it was so scary because as my peers were being absorbed into their jobs, and all of a sudden, the first month, someone is getting 10 grand, someone is getting 15 grand, and you are trying to start your small business and it's not going anywhere. So, and up to this stage, we are not as fortunate as you that you started in the corporate. I've never worked for anybody. So I started right away. So it's 10 years now and we are still going strong. So it's very, very true what you are saying, that it starts first with believing yourself, that will give you that drive to keep going on and on. So having said that, what do you think about the state of entrepreneurship in the country? And also that South Africa has been said to have very low entrepreneurship activity levels. So not so many people are becoming entrepreneurs. And there's also a high unemployment rate. And the big question is, if there is high unemployment rate, why then can't people employ themselves? Because there's no one who's stopping you from employing yourself, because everyone is complaining there are no jobs, but there is a way that one can just start by employing themselves. So what is your take around the levels of the low levels of entrepreneurship in the country, and also given that the ratio according to the total entrepreneurship activity, they say only 1 in 17 adults, they are entrepreneurs, and yes, others they are working, but the majority are unemployed. So what is really the state of entrepreneurship in the country, and how do we fix the broken pieces?
So, Rapelang, that's a very important thing that you touched on right now, because entrepreneurship is the lifeblood, I feel, of any economy, and entrepreneurship is, we should look at it as a stream or a river that flows into the ocean. So it is where you start your journey, and then scale if you do it correctly, you can scale your business into a small to medium enterprise, into a medium to large enterprise, and then possibly a corporate business, and then a multinational business when you scale internationally. So entrepreneurship, needs to be, I think that's why the Endorphin Foundation has started off with the youth, because the perception is that I can't do it. I don't have a skill. How am I supposed to get into business? I need money to start. And all of those questions are unfounded, because what we teach, for example, is how to get into business with little or no money. We also teach people how to start their businesses. We give them full support in terms of registering their businesses. And what you find is that in terms of the level of entrepreneurship, people need to believe they do it. Because if you're going to sit back and wait for corporate to take you, you're going to be waiting a very, very long time. So as you said, one of the things you said was that, you were not lucky enough to work in corporate. But let me tell you something. I can tell you the opposite of that. I was unlucky enough to work in corporate for many years. I should have started, a long time ago, or at least stayed in my business when I was in school. So, who knows, I would have been a much more successful and a much bigger office right now. But everything happens at the right time for people.
Yes, yes.
And the thing is that you learn different skills. So what took me possibly 10 years to learn in corporate, you probably learned in the first 2 years because you made some mistakes, it cost you money, and you realized, hey, this is not how we do things, and you changed very quickly. So I could possibly say that while some people spend 100,000 rand, for example, trying to do their MBA after their first 4 or 5 year degree, you would have learned probably twice as much in your first year in business, but not have that particular certificate. So, entrepreneurship needs to be stimulated. We need to get corporate and we need to get other entrepreneurs involved in stimulating it. We need to also take cognizance of the informal sector that doesn't have a formal structure in terms of business. I mean, I was in Alex the other day, and if you just walk down, or Tembisa, and you just walk down and you see all of these little shops on the sides of the roads, very informal, but they're bustling. They're making some money. And the thing is that I definitely believe that entrepreneurship is the way to go. 1 in 17 people is absolutely ridiculous. Right now, our unemployment rate is close to 40%, which means that if you look around you and you count 5 people, in all possibility, at least 2 of them are unemployed. And that figure is actually, I would say exaggerated, because in my experience, I find a lot more people that have just gotten, now with COVID and the pandemic, businesses have closed down, people have gotten retrenched, things like that. So entrepreneurship is definitely the way to go, but you need to have, just like you go to school and you need a teacher to teach you, you need someone to teach you business as well. Do not underestimate the value of a good coach and mentor. That's what I want to tell people, because you can do it.
Sure. No, that's wonderful. I also like to advise our viewers that you can also put your question to Akash directly on the chat, or if you may want to be unmuted, we can do so. So just indicate there or raise your hand, then we will recognize you, comrades. So there's also on the chat line here, Brian Klapan, who said, brilliant entrepreneurship business platform to learn and engage. So thank you very much, Brian. So this is what we are trying to do, to feed as much content and information into the ecosystem to empower as many entrepreneurs as possible, because we understand that it's not easy, especially to be on the journey alone. So we are creating a safe space and a safe environment for us to walk this journey together and keep encouraging one another that it is possible, just like Akash is doing. So we are really, really inspired and motivated by his story, and we're looking forward to really working together to do more of this type of work. So now you have just also reflected on the COVID-19. So what do you think has been the impact of COVID-19 on especially the small businesses, and how can small businesses navigate this difficult economic times, and how do you think that they can be rescued and the ecosystem deal with some of the effects of COVID-19, because the spillovers into unemployment and many other challenges, socio-economic challenges that it creates. So how can small business navigate this difficult time? Small businesses are closing down. You go and look at the shopping malls. If you don't have balance sheet affluence, you are just going under immediately. And you see the businesses that are surviving now. And if you just go to the malls, all what you see is balance sheet affluence. So, but
that's right.
There's nothing like that for small business. There's no balance sheet, it's hand to mouth. So how do they survive these tough economic times and really navigate, out of this crisis?
So Rapelang, you hit the nail, the proverbial nail on the head there, because if you go into malls, you either see lots of vacancies, and I can tell you this now, even in corporate buildings, office buildings, you see a lot of vacancies now. And as you said, you have balance, only the companies with balance sheet affluence that are actually weathering the storm. To what degree, I don't know as well, because they're also taking quite a hit. But the problem there is, why are we looking at the malls? The only people that make money in the malls from the businesses during COVID are the landlords. The biggest percentage of your money and your turnover that a small business makes goes towards rent. And that's a fact. I've seen it, for the last 2 decades. The largest expense is normally rental. Then comes things like staff or salaries, and then lights and water and all of those things, and then other consumables. But a large percentage of the money you make goes towards rental. So why sit in a mall? Why sit in a mall? Small businesses need to cut down on costs. Yes, I know it's nice to say I've got nice big fancy offices, or I've got a nice shop, in Jabulani Mall or Sin City or Menlyn or whichever mall you'd like to talk about. But the thing is that unless you have space that is, virtually free or accounting for a small percentage of your turnover, small businesses, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Even if you look at the amount of foot traffic that comes through to a mall, and you might have 1,000 people coming past your shop every day, but how many of those 1,000 people do you actually turn into customers? There's no point people knowing your business is there, but not going in. So I think the biggest thing is for entrepreneurs to reduce overhead. You have to reduce costs. And the last place, normally corporate South Africa, the first place that they reduce costs is by retrenching staff and cutting their salary bills. I believe that that's the worst time to actually retrench. And it's not because I just want people to be employed, but if you can't weather the storm when things are bad, and when you're in a pandemic, for example, that's the time you need your people. You need your people to go out there and sell and service your customers, service your product, after sales service, because that's what's going to keep your customer loyal to you. So I think the biggest thing for entrepreneurs right now during this COVID pandemic, and we now in our third wave, is 4 things. Number 1, please wear a mask. Number 2, please wash your hands. Number 3, please keep your sanitizer on you at all times, because that's what's going to keep you safe and your family safe. And then lastly, and most importantly, you need to have a look at your business. So a lot of these businesses and these entrepreneurs, they get into business and they like to have the shop by themselves. So how many people do you know, for example, open up a small spaza shop, or they have a little cell phone shop, or they're selling, they've got a little bakery, but it belongs to one person. It belongs to one person. Now, that's not the only shop out there. So now you're competing with 5 or 6 other people in the same market. In times of crisis like this, I believe that one of the other solutions is for you to get, the 4 or 5 other people that you used to compete with and say, hey, we're all going through tough times. Let's get together and open up a bigger shop. Now you're getting all those customers coming into one place rather than fragmenting your base, going into 5 different shops. Things like start a joint venture, start a partnership, consolidate your businesses. Now, I know, for most people, specifically, in the townships and so forth, you might be thinking, but this is, big corporate speak, but it isn't, because corporates have the balance sheet affluence, as you said, to weather the storm. You don't see Standard Bank and Absa Bank getting together and saying we're going to form one bank, because they both have quite a lot of substantial amount of cash reserves. However, small businesses that are managing just from month to month, if 5 of you get together, you have division of labor and you have more delegation of authority. You now start being able to focus each of the business and business. I still believe that this is the time for us to be able to dig our heels in and grow our businesses. And I believe that it can happen.
Someone said collaboration is a great innovation, or it's a new innovation. And it is definitely very important that we need to, because gone are the times where we used to see other small businesses as our competitors, but now we have to think innovatively about how do we collaborate, as you say, that we can divide certain costs and spread the cost and use economies of scale in order to be able to manage and navigate through all of that. But I know that sometimes there's a big question that small business have, and maybe to some extent it can be a myth as well, and you touched on it earlier on around the issue of funding, that there is a perception that for you to start a business you need the funding. And you just touched on small businesses that are starting from townships now. So I can talk about two great entrepreneurs, Theo Baloyi and the other gentleman who started Drip as well. So these are stories from the townships of entrepreneurs who said that we didn't go around looking for funding. Yes, they did manage to save up some money through their work and be able to, at a later stage, bootstrap out of that savings and start their own business. And simply now, because they put the skin in the game and their own money into their businesses, that could have been part of driving that business success, because it makes them very dangerous and also very careful enough to manage those finances, because it's their own personal money. So it doesn't make you dangerous enough if somebody give you the money to start. So when should businesses start looking for funding? And do you think that is a major need, as it has been acclaimed, or to some extent is a myth, and there's a way to navigate around it such that it does not become an impedance for people to not start? Because even now, as we say, and people need to start their own business, the first question is, where am I going to get money to start one? So how do we answer that question for people who want to start their own companies, who say that funding is an obstacle for them to be able to start that? Is that a myth, or indeed it is a reality?
Yeah. So Rapelang, funding is one of the biggest excuses, I believe, that, and I say it with respect because there are businesses out there that do need some funding, but generally, in my experience, of over 2 decades or 3 decades, from the time I've been in school. When I was in school, I started my own business, and I started it with no funding, only my own pocket money and all of that. And you start slowly and you just keep reinvesting in your business, and then you build up enough capital to sustain your business. I think funding is the biggest excuse that lazy people use to not get into business. Now, listen to that again. Funding is the biggest excuse, or lack of funding is the biggest excuse that lazy people use not to get into business. Now, the reason why I say this is because take Mr. Baloyi, for example. He could have done a lot of things. He could have had, Batu footwear as a dream all his life. And he could have built a nice big business within his own mind, Did he do that? Yes, he did have a big vision. Did he cry about not having funding? No, he didn't. He was placed into a certain environment, and this is where we talk about the ecosystem. You're placed in a particular environment, and you either use that to motivate yourself to become better and to break out of that environment, or you let the environment beat you and you just die a slow death. So for me, I don't think any entrepreneur needs funding. And that's just my personal view. Right now, my business is totally funding. I'm not funded by anybody. I don't have any debt, any major debt with any financial institution. In fact, now that I don't need money, all the financial institutions are now calling me to give me money. But when I needed money, nobody would have given me money, So that's the paradox of business. That's the paradox of business. When you need it, you can't get it. And when you don't need it, they want to give it to you. But so if somebody is really interested in getting into business, and they're really passionate about it, and they're really motivated and believe in themselves, you don't need funding. You don't need funding. You do need a good business coach and mentor. And I keep talking about that because it's extremely important. So you need a good business coach and mentor, and you need to be able to take some risk, innovate, and find ways around it. I mean, why do people need funding? Let me ask you, why do entrepreneurs want funding? One of the biggest things they say is because I need to get offices. Why are you borrowing money to pay somebody rent? Work out of your home, share offices with someone. There's lots of ways of doing things. In most businesses, all you need is a good internet connection and a telephone. And everybody's got a telephone. There are more people in Africa with cell phones than bank accounts.
Sure.
So the thing is that I just don't believe that excuse that we need funding. Once you get to a certain stage, yes, you may need funding, but by that stage, you know that even if you don't get funding, you're not going to go out of business. And most of the businesses that have gone out of business are exactly because of the fact that they were geared incorrectly. So they had too much debt as opposed to what their returns were.
Sure.
So when the time came, the cash flow couldn't support paying that debt. That debt just wiped them out. So, it's like you're thirsty. I tell people, if you're thirsty, don't drink poison because you're thirsty, because that's what funding is in most instances. And don't get me wrong, there are businesses that do need funding, but there are ways around it, collaboration, if you need equipment, for example, rent it. You don't need to buy. You might be able to, in the smaller economy of the informal trade and entrepreneurship, there's many ways of bartering services. For example, if you manufacture furniture, for example, and I'm a marketing company, I could tell you, hey, I need some tables and chairs. How much would it be? I'll give you, if it's 20,000 Rand, I'll do some marketing for you and I'll bring customers in for you. Things like that. There's ways of doing it. So unfortunately, I don't believe is something that should be used as an excuse to stop you from getting into business. You can get into business if you really want to. There are people that have started from absolutely nothing and they've managed to make big business. There are some good black business entrepreneurs that started in the height of apartheid when they were not allowed to do business, and they made successes of themselves. I think anybody gave them funding? No.
I think I can remember when I was just out of varsity. I was no longer getting stipend now, and I want to start a business. And I didn't even have any money to start a business. But what I did is that, because the easiest business for me at the time to get into was consulting. So I advertised myself in campus that I can register people's companies, I can register their businesses. So I got my first customer who paid me half of as a deposit for the service. That's the 350 that I took a taxi to Pretoria at the time, and then went to register the business.
CIPC office,
and then when I came back, and then when the service was done, the client was able to pay me the rest of the balance, and that's now the capital injection for me to be able to service the next customer without hassle. So, and these 100%. Are some of the ways that you can, because your best funders are your customers, I believe. Because for me, that was that strategy. But I know, as you say, that in the business cycle, at some point, there will be a need to raise capital, maybe to scale or to expand, and to be able to also be much more competitive, to resource the company much more to be able to compete. So what do you think about the South African funding ecosystem? Do you think that is ready for the small businesses that we have, or maybe the small businesses are not ready for the funders that are available? Often enough, there's this disconnect where the funders are asking, where are the small businesses? And the small businesses are asking, where are the funders?
Where are the funders?
And they can't seem to find each other. So some of them, some people also believe that there is more funding than good business to invest in. So how do we really fix that kind of funding ecosystem to really be effective in us realizing the growth of small business, as you say that at some point the funding, it is really required?
So, you know, that's absolutely true.
And I'm just asking you as a former banker as well, that you have had a lot of exposure within the financial sector in terms of how funding work, and how do you become funding ready to make sure that you appeal to institutions?
So the biggest problem with our funding model or our banking system, our financial system in this country is, look, our financial system, I must tell you, is one of the most robust in the world. So, you know, we've got one of the best banking infrastructures in the world, even better than the US, for example. However, saying that, you know, you cannot reduce risk to zero. And we have a very conservative mindset, and we always want those guarantees. So if I'm going to give you money, you have to guarantee me that you're going to make your business work, and we're going to, you know, I'm going to get my money back. It doesn't work that way. So the thing is that also when small businesses, the reason why there's so much of risk is because when small businesses get hold of funding, you know, they think that they've got 5 million Rand in the bank, and what's the first thing that happens? The BMW M3 comes out and is parked in the garage, you know? So it's all about image, and money doesn't get spent properly in the business itself. So that's where the risks come from. And this is why I say the only businesses that will survive and be able to make it is if you have a proper business mentor and a coach that can tell you, Rapelang, you can't go buy yourself a car right now because your financials don't support it. You've got this money, and we need to buy equipment, and we need to buy plant and equipment, we need to buy land, or we need to, you know, whatever business you're in, you need to invest it into the business. The other thing is that entrepreneurs sometimes don't realize that if your business is making an additional 10,000 Rand a month, all of a sudden your salary is 10,000 Rand. Good times happen and you get a few more customers, and now you're making 50,000 Rand a month. All of a sudden your salary goes up to 50,000 Rand a month. So, you know, and your lifestyle adjusts. You can't do that. You need to treat your business as a business. You need to say, okay, well, if I'm taking 5,000 Rand a month out of my business as a salary to live on, tomorrow, if you're making 50,000 Rand a month, you can't just go take 50 or 60,000 Rand a month out of the business. You need to still stay with that 5,000 Rand a month. You need to take the additional funds and you need to build it back into your business. You need to reinvest. Now, the biggest problem with entrepreneurs is the reason why they fail is because of lack of focus, and the fact that when they do start making a little money, you know, they already think they're successful, and then they financially decimate their own business. So you can't do that. So in terms of the funding model and the funding incubators and accelerators that we have, I think that there's a definite need for it. We in fact we have too little in this country. The problem is that also when you apply to these institutions, they can only service, you know, a limited number of businesses. You know, you can't apply at a funder or an accelerator or an incubator and expect them to take 1,000 small businesses on. They can't. So they choose the best ones that they feel will have the best chance of success, right? So what happens to the other businesses? They need to understand that that is not the be all and end all. If they really want to get into business, they need to be coached, they need to get themselves upskilled, they need to understand the business that they're in. And one of the biggest things that I found is that you know, people don't want to invest in themselves. People just don't want to invest in themselves. I mean, it's happened even with us, where I've even told people, listen, I don't have a position for you, but if you really, really want to upskill yourself, come and shadow me 3 times a week. Or if you can commit a day, that's fine. I don't I'm not going to, it's not a job, but I'm willing to coach you and mentor you and teach you how business works. They don't want to do it. They want a salary. That's the problem. People don't want to invest in themselves. So what I normally ask people is, or I ask, especially if they're students or they have a degree, I ask them, so how much did WITS pay you to get your degree? And they look at me like, what? WITS didn't pay me, I paid WITS. I said, exactly. And if you went to varsity, whether you had taxi fare or not, you still got to varsity. You still went for lectures. If you didn't have transport for to get to your exam, you didn't write the exam, you failed. Why can't you treat the workplace the same way? Because that's where you have practical experience. Why can't you make it your mission to get to work, learn from people that have gone through the pain, and upskill yourself, and at the same time build your network?
You know, you just reminded me as well, as you talk about the attitude that the young people have about how they want to make it in life. Sometimes it has this entitlement that someone must really push the boundaries for me. If they don't, then I'm going to wait for that to happen. So I remember when I was still at the elementary stage of starting my business. So one of the business partners that I have now, who is Jason I do with a very long corporate experience. So I was still at the Branson Center of Entrepreneurship. So she came in to do a session for us on innovation. So I just approached her, told her that I love what you do, and I would like you to teach me the stuff that you do. Can I please shadow you as you go to training in these institutions? I will do anything. If it's to carry the pot, I will do that. And you don't have to pay me. I just want to learn from you. And that's it. That moved her so much. And today we are working together after 8 years. And 80% of the business that I do, 80% of that work come from that relationship. And most of the corporate clients that I've done work for is because of that relationship. So it accounts just for 80%. And I agree with you that people don't want takers. So you must be able to have an attitude of also bringing value on the table, and then someone can enhance that value and it becomes a mutually beneficial relationship. So, and I found that also very, very profound. So I just need to read I think it's a question. Let me just go to our chats. There's Kelly who's saying, hello, Rapelang and Akash. Thank you for the great webinar. My question relates to finding a mentor, as it's something that is being mentioned over and over again. Like many new entrepreneurs, I come from a very middle class background. Nobody I know is a business person. I am the first of my friends and family to attempt entrepreneurship. Resultantly, I have no idea where to start finding a mentor. How does someone like me go about finding a mentor and and approaching the subject of mentorship with them? Thank you. So maybe you can answer this one about the role of mentorship.
So Kelly, thank you very much for thank you very much for your question. It's actually a very good question. In terms of finding someone, first of all, you need to understand what type of business you're going to be getting into. So I normally use this as an example that if you want to become a very good soccer player, you need to find a soccer coach. You can't go to someone who's excellent in piano. He's not going to be able to teach you much. So I think from that perspective, you need to understand what type of business you want to go into. You need to look at the pros and cons of that, and then find people within that sector. So I think pop me a message directly on LinkedIn or one of the platforms, or send me an email via our website. or I can share my details, later. And then I'll definitely, either try to help you myself, or somebody in my team, or also help you find somebody after we go through a few questions as to, what type of business you want to get into and what it is that you want to do. And then we'll help you find that. There are other places like Comensa, which is the coaches and mentors of South Africa, for example. Some of this, or most of the mentors and coaches do charge, which you can negotiate with them. Most of the stuff that we actually do is free of charge. We try to really, really assist, especially through the foundation. But whether they charge or not, it's really important that you do find one, and then find people that you look up to. I mean, if you're working in a corporate business at the moment, there might be somebody that's at a suitably senior enough level. I know that I used to coach and mentor, quite a few people as well, in the business environment, and just have those conversations. Otherwise, please feel free to drop me a message, and I'll assist.
No, fantastic. And maybe just to add on that, as I say that, your mentor is your thinking partner, and sometimes you may need another brain to always run your IVF against. And as I said, that is very, very critical, because you need people who can to open doors for you. You can't do it alone. And sometimes it just takes approaching someone, but not with a mindset of being a taker, but also of being a contributor in their journey, adding and creating value for them. And I remember from the days I used to go to JH, and today I was exposed to big clients like Standard Bank, Nedbank, Absa. Now I'm program managing one of the biggest programs within the property space for entrepreneurs that are servicing the property sector. So lot of work that some of the clients I couldn't have accessed myself, but I was able to leverage through that relationship to be able to do work for some of those big corporates with the backdrop of their credibility, because sometimes you start with credibility, then you need someone who already is established to really venture yourself through them so that you can be able to access some of these opportunities. So just a few questions before we come to a close. So we talked a lot about the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and obviously there are a lot of role players and support institutions, and according to the ANDE report, they have surveyed about 340 of them. And a lot of controversies happening in that space as well. Others believing that some of these institutions, they don't necessarily serve the entrepreneurs, but they serve those institutions and the consultants that work there, because most of the money that is being invested in that space, the receiving end of that is not actually the entrepreneurs, which the resources are meant for, but it is these institutions and the consultants that are running them. So how do you think this can be reconstructed and corrected? And because a lot of entrepreneurs are angry against incubators and accelerator programs and hubs and then and all sorts of those interventions, because they believe that they are not serving the best interests of entrepreneurs, but these are self-serving individuals who want to make money. So what can we do better to make sure that some of these institutions indeed they serve the needs of the entrepreneurs and not necessarily the people who run them?
So very interesting point of view. As a former entrepreneur, and I've got the corporate background, I'll speak a little bit about both. And I do understand, the entrepreneurship or the entrepreneurs' point of view. However, I must be honest and say that I don't believe that to be true in all instances. I tell you why. I come back to the point of people not wanting to invest in themselves. So if somebody is going to give you the opportunity to take part in an incubator or an accelerator program, as you said as well, you need to show them that you can also add value. You know, that money to pay for your office space and to pay for your printing and pay for your telephone and help you network, that money has to come from somewhere, you know. So you need to bring something to the party. And it's this whole mindset about, yes, I want to take. You got to help me because I'm an entrepreneur and I've been underprivileged and boo-hoo, you know, we cry a lot. But you know, our fathers and our grandfathers and our great-grandfathers had it even worse than us. And they made it work. They didn't have the access to opportunity that we have. It's become a smaller world. We can now communicate freer. We can network easier. You know, there's no need for us to expect everything for free. And you know, the whole point of being an entrepreneur is that you're getting into business to make money as well. So don't speak ill of those consultants, for example, unless there's something really wrong and they're not doing their jobs. But don't, you know, they in it because they're giving you time and effort, and they're sharing the experiences that they've accumulated over many years to help you get into business and keep your business sustainable. They need to make money too. So don't look down. If you're going to look down on other people making money or you contributing to somebody else's success, don't expect somebody to contribute towards yours. That's the simple short answer. There definitely is a place for entrepreneurs. There's definitely a place for incubators and accelerator programs. Most of them are well run. I can't speak on behalf of everybody because there are quite a number in this country. But yes, while there are people that, you know, try to look for a way and an easy way to make money, you know, to paint everybody with the same paintbrush, I don't ascribe to that. There have been people that have taken advantage of us, for example, and there have been lots of people who have, you know, I owe a very big debt of gratitude to, who've helped me as well. So, you know, we need to just understand that that's how business is. And if you want to make money, you must realize that everybody wants to make money. So if you're in an incubator, the incubator needs to make money of you to be able to run and then service the next lot of entrepreneurs that come through. So work hard and don't complain.
No, indeed. And I remember when I used to be in one myself, so I was at the Shaluka Black Umbrellas, who, when I started my journey, they really kickstarted me very well, exposed me a lot to the do's and don'ts of business, how to systematize my business, how to run an effective financial system, because we had to do a lot of management accounts. I didn't even know what management account is, and they had to hammer that in us and be very strict for us producing management accounts every month, and also getting that office space and all of that. So it was a big thing for me because I was just coming straight from school, and that support meant a lot, and it's responsible for some of the work that we've been able to achieve over the years. So now, in terms of technology, also as an enabler, so what do you think a small business can be able to leverage the power of technology to accelerate their businesses, access new market? Because now small businesses are complaining about access to markets, but technology makes us a global village where there are no boundaries. You are able to really reach any markets in the world with a fraction of the cost. So what do you think about how technology has been an enabler? Do you think it's underutilized maybe by entrepreneurs? Do you think maybe they're not exposed to how they can grow their business through technology and use it to access the new markets and really grow their revenues, grow their businesses?
Yeah, so technology is one of the things that we are a very big advocate of, especially with entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs, you know, they've got the mindset that they are a small business. And yes, they are a small business, but there's a lot of technology that they can leverage to automate mundane tasks in their business. So for example, you know, there are apps that they can use for simple accounting, for example, for customer relationship management, for automating WhatsApp and all of that. So the biggest thing for an entrepreneur is when they look at it and they say, okay, well, this is going to cost me 500 Rand a month or 1,000 Rand a month. No, I don't need it. They end up wasting more hours trying to get that work done by themselves, rather than just spending the 1,500. Or later on, they might get into a little bit of trouble and their books are in a mess. And then they need to pay an accountant to come in, or one of their friends, and then it costs them 5 or 6 or 7,000 Rand, to get everything back on track. So in the long run, they're becoming penny wise, pound foolish. They save a few cents here and a few Rand there, and then it costs them more in the long run. Also, the thing is that if they don't use technology, they're going to need to use either technology or people. People are also expensive. People also end up, the level of work you get out of a person is not consistent. People get sick, they don't come to work. They want to go on holiday, they call in sick, and they're gone fishing for the day. So and then as a small business, if you try to get rid of them, or you say, listen, it's not working out, then you get CCMA issues coming out. So that can shut down a business. Now the thing is that it's much easier for you to automate a lot of the mundane tasks, get it out of the way, and you save yourself thousands of rands later. You also then free up a lot of time in your business to be able to focus on your business. Because most people leave their corporate jobs, they leave a job, and then they get into business and they end up owning the job. That's what I say. I say they normally own the job, because now they work for themselves, but they're actually working as though they were a salaried worker somewhere else. So they get so caught up in the compliance of their business that they actually don't go out and do business.
Sure. No, very, very
there's lots of free software. There's lots of software that are very, very cheap, and we teach you how to also decide on what software to use. We also teach businesses on how to optimize the costs. For example, if you get software, you don't have to buy 5 licenses because you, your wife, and your accountant and your cousin want to have access to the accounts. Buy 1 license and make sure that the relevant person uses it, and you share a login and password if you need to get into it. Delegate that to 1 person. You can't be everywhere in your business at the same time. It saves you money, and it also helps you automate some things in your business.
Sure. No, very, very profound indeed. I don't want to take much of your time, but maybe just in your closing comments, where can people find you, and where can people find Endorphin Global, as well as the foundation that you have, the hub that you have? How can they be part of all of that, and how is that going to assist their businesses moving forward?
100%. So thank you very much. I can be found, our business can be found at www.endorphinglobal.com, or you can Google Endorphin Global and it should come up. We also have, social media pages on Facebook. We've also got a YouTube channel. Please follow us on YouTube and, subscribe to our channel. We are in the process of uploading a lot of fresh content. Stuff like that we're talking about now in terms of how to start your business with little or no money, why do startups fail, things to look out for to grow your business. There's a lot of hints and tips there that we're going to be uploading, in future over the next few months and possibly years as we build the content. Very, very happy for people to mail me directly if necessary, or they can mail info@endorphinglobal.com or akash.maharaj@endorphinglobal.com, and we can always help. So I'm also on LinkedIn. Please go look for me. I think you and I are also friends on LinkedIn. We already contacts on LinkedIn, and join our Facebook pages as well. And we're here to help as many people as we possibly can. The more people that get into business, the better for everybody.
Yes.
Better for everybody. So yeah, and good luck with everything. And thank you very much once again for having me. I really appreciate it.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Akash. What a profound and brilliant conversation that we just had. And I believe that a lot of entrepreneurs have taken a lot of nuggets on what you have to say. And this video as well will be found on our platforms as well, on the Rapelang Mutsumi YouTube channel. So you can find it there. So obviously we will share it with Akash, so they can also share it in their platforms. So it will be much available, and more of such conversations should still come. So maybe there will be
100%.
a part two of this. So we'll look into that, because I really and thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with Akash. And I believe that there are a lot of interesting points of common interest. So looking forward to working with you again, moving forward. Very interesting work that we do for the ecosystem. So thank you very much also, guys, for joining us. So do subscribe to our platform to find more of this type of content. And then we'll be very grateful also if you are able to connect with us for anything that you need, whether it be mentorship, whether it be coaching, whether it be some of the entrepreneurial programs that we run or that we can suggest for you, and whatever help that you need within the ecosystem, we can be able to direct you, and then you'll be able to be assisted in that regard. So thank you very much until we meet again in more other sessions to come. And I'm really grateful that you're able to join with us today. And thank you so much also, Akash, for availing yourself for this opportunity.
Thank you very, very much. I really